The dirt twirled around the tired wheels of the old Dodge truck as it pulled up to the simple farmhouse under the waning afternoon glow. Sophie, 24 years old, sat in the passenger seat, her hands quivering as she clutched her tattered leather bag tightly. Her long blonde hair was neatly plaited, and her floral dress, though tidy and carefully mended, showed traces of many years of wear. She had always been heavier than other girls her age, and her family never let her forget it. Her father's voice lingered in her mind from that morning. "Sophie, this plan will settle our financial woes and ensure your future. Edward Bennett needs a wife to run his farm, and frankly, we can't afford to be choosy about suitors now." The words hurt deeply as they were meant to. Her parents had made it abundantly clear they saw her as a burden, an unmarriageable daughter who took too much and gave too little. When the bank threatened to foreclose on their small store, her father had swiftly accepted Edward Bennett's abrupt proposal. "He's just a humble dirt farmer," her mother had said with obvious scorn. "But he offered to settle our debts in exchange for your hand in marriage. See it as your way to contribute to the family after years of taking from us." Now, as Sophie stepped out of the truck, she felt like a product being dropped off at its new home. Her father hardly looked at her as he unloaded her few belongings. "Edward should be around here somewhere," her father muttered gruffly. "Remember, Sophie, you're his responsibility now. Don't disgrace our family name." As if called by their words, two men appeared from behind the plain farmhouse. The first was, clearly, Edward Bennett, a man in his early 30s with dark hair and gentle eyes. He wore basic work clothes, a blue flannel shirt and worn faded jeans. His build was strong from years of hard work, and he moved with the steady gait of someone at ease with himself. Behind him walked an older man with a full grey beard and a warm demeanour, dressed in overalls and a soft cotton shirt. This was obviously Edward's father, sharing the same sincere features and kindly manner. "Miss Sophie," Edward said gently, approaching with his hat in hand. "I'm Edward Bennett. This is my father, Charles Bennett. Welcome to our home." Sophie was immediately struck by his soft voice and courteous demeanour. Unlike other men who had gazed at her with contempt or pity, Edward's eyes held only kindness and genuine warmth. "I know this isn't the path you might have chosen for yourself," Edward continued cautiously, "but I assure you, you'll be treated with dignity and care here. This is your home now for as long as you wish to stay." Sophie's father completed the deal with clear haste, eager to return to town with his debts cleared. As the truck faded down the dusty road, Sophie felt more isolated than ever, standing in the yard with her bag and her fears. "Come," Edward said warmly. "Let me show you the house. You must be tired and hungry after your long journey." As they approached the farmhouse, Sophie was surprised by what she saw. Though the exterior was simple and unassuming, the property stretched far beyond her expectations. Well-maintained fences extended toward the horizon, and she could see cattle grazing in far-off pastures. The house itself, though plain, was impeccably clean and surprisingly spacious inside. The kitchen was cozy and inviting, with a large wood stove and a sturdy oak table that could seat 8 comfortably. "I know it's not fancy," Edward said with a touch of regret, "but we've tried to make it comfortable and welcoming. Your room is upstairs first, door on the right. You'll have complete privacy, and all doors have locks for your comfort." Sophie was moved by this consideration. She had expected to be treated as little more than unpaid help. Charles Bennett spoke for the first time, his voice warm and paternal. "Sophie, my dear, I want you to know Edward is a good man. He'll never make you feel uneasy or scared. We both hope you'll come to see this place as truly your home." That evening, as Sophie sat at the kitchen table sharing a simple but tasty meal of roast beef and fresh vegetables, she began to see her assumptions about this new life might be mistaken. Edward and his father treated her with a respect she had never known before. They asked about her interests, listened to her replies, and seemed genuinely curious about her. thoughts and ideas. When she mentioned her love for reading, Edward's face lit up with delight. "We have a nice collection of books in the parlor," he said eagerly. "Please take any that interest you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on them." Over the following weeks, Sophie found life at the Bennett farm was unlike anything she had known. Edward rose before dawn to handle his duties, but he always ensured she had what she needed. He never demanded her time or focus, instead giving her room to explore her new surroundings and settle into the household routine. Gradually, Sophie began to grasp the true scope of the Bennett operation. What seemed like a modest farm was actually a thriving agricultural business. Edward owned thousands of acres of prime land, managed hundreds of cattle, and had profitable contracts with buyers in 3 states. "Why didn't you correct my father's assumptions about your wealth?" Sophie asked one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. Edward was quiet for a moment, his hands folded in his lap. "Your father made it clear he wanted a solution to his financial woes, not a man who would cherish his daughter. I thought if he knew the truth about our wealth, he might have different motives for this arrangement." "And what were your motives?" Sophie asked softly, her voice trembling with emotion. Edward turned to her with those sincere dark eyes. "Loneliness, to be completely youthful. This farm has been successful, but it's felt empty without someone to share it with. When I heard about your situation through a shared friend, I thought we might help each other." As autumn turned to winter, Sophie found herself easing into farm life with surprising contentment. She discovered a talent for managing the household finances and began helping Edward with business correspondence. Her sharp attention to detail and natural smarts impressed both men. More importantly, she began to feel valued for the first time in her life. Edward always sought her input on major decisions, and Charles treated her like the daughter he never had. The change wasn't just emotional, but physical too. Regular meals, outdoor work, and genuine joy began to show in her appearance. She still carried extra weight, but her posture grew confident and her eyes sparkled with vitality. One snowy December evening, as they sat by the fireplace reading, Edward set down his book and looked at Sophie with rare gravity. "Sophie, I need to say something, and I hope you won't take it badly." Sophie's heart raced with worry. Had she done something wrong? "When this arrangement began, I thought we might form a partnership of convenience," Edward continued carefully. "But somewhere along the way, my feelings have changed completely." He paused, mustering courage. "I've come to love you not as a partner or helper, but as the woman I want to share my life with. You bring joy, intelligence, and warmth to everything you do." Sophie felt tears rise in her eyes, her heart swelling with emotion. "Edward, you don't need to answer now," he said quickly, his voice gentle. "I just wanted you to know that if you ever choose to make this marriage real in every sense, it would make me the happiest man alive." Sophie looked at this kind, successful, genuine man who had shown her more care in 6 months than her family had in 24 years. "I love you too," she said softly, her voice thick with feeling. "You've given me something I never thought I'd have. A place where I'm valued for who I am, not judged for what I'm not." The following spring, they held a second wedding, this time a celebration of love, not duty. Sophie had blossomed into a confident, radiant woman who managed the household and much of the farm's business with skill and wisdom. Her family, upon learning of Edward's true wealth and status, tried to reconnect, but Sophie politely but firmly declined, having learned that true family is built on love and respect, not obligation or convenience. Years later, as Sophie watched their children play in the same yard where she had once stood with a bag and a heavy heart, she reflected on life's unexpected turns. Edward had given her more than financial security or status. He had given her the gift of seeing herself through loving eyes, discovering her worth was never tied to her appearance or her family's narrow expectations. She had found her true home, not just in the vast acres of the Bennett farm, but in the heart of a man who loved her exactly as she was.